So while there's no information out on the products just yet, obviously as Dark Magician players, we're speculating new support. However, this is not confirmed. Hey guys, today we're talking about the Yu-Gi-Oh! Organization's post about some structure decks for Blue Eyes and Dark Magician into the English language from the official card game, being the OCG. What that means is for territories that use the OCG but actually have English as a common language, they're going to be able to get their products in English rather than in the Japanese text. Now, if you haven't watched the previous video, go and check that out. It'll summarize everything you need to know. This is going to be an in-depth video on what we should expect, the best case scenario and the worst case scenario. So best case scenario is we get the Dark Magician structure deck released over here in the TCG and we get cheap reprints. That would be ideal, and that's kind of my main priority here, but obviously I'm a Dark Magician player, so priority 2 is we get new support. And I really want that support to be relevant, so I'm going to say point number 3 is the support is good. Now this could range from a link, this could range to a new fusion spell, a new ritual spell, hell, even a new fusion boss monster, though preferably I would love if they looked more into the link archetype, but you know what? I wouldn't complain if they went down, say, the synchro route and gave DM like a tuner and a synchro, because Dark Magician hasn't had those while Blue Eyes has. Though Dark Magician has had XYZ support in the past with EBON Illusion and EBON High Magician, though both of these cards could tie into the structure deck's name, which is Illusion of the Dark Magicians. Now, of course, people have also speculated it could tie into the new Illusionist archetype, since Dark Magician has been known to be an Illusionist, and a lot of the cards have Illusion in their name by default. It does feel like the whole Dragon versus Worm archetype. Now, I do understand Worms and Dragons are two different things technically, but you know what? From Konami's point of view, I don't think they really care about that. You get what I'm saying. Illusionists and Spellcasters, they're literally the same thing, so this could be a chance for DM to start anew. Or we could just keep getting the same crappy support and we'll be crying in the club. So best case scenario, the structure deck drops in the OCG and we see new support and we're actually able to use those cards to at least play the game at least to a higher standard. Let's move over to worst case scenario. Now we're starting with number 1. Obviously we just don't get the structure deck. That could just happen, but you know what? It could come through as in packs. That has happened before. Sometimes TCG doesn't get all the structure decks the OCG gets, but it could come through in the form of the next box or whatever, something like that. Now, point number 2 would just have to be we don't get any good cards. I don't know, getting new support that's bad, just I feel like would anger the community. It would at least make me a little bit annoyed, right? So I'd understand if people would get upset. I don't think it's fair to give Dark Magician new support that's terrible. Now, I know Dark Magician has a track record of terrible support, but you have to look at some of our newer inclusions like Illusion of Chaos and Dragoon. Clearly the people making these cards understood Dark Magician needed something good. Unfortunately, you'll notice both these cards get abused in other decks, so I'm hoping the designer of the newer Dark Magician cards, if there are any, does take a look into this and understands how to restrict the Dark Magician cards that are powerful within the deck and their archetype, so they stay within Dark Magician. If we get a Dark Magic Fusion spell that's as cracked as Red Eyes Fusion or Branded Fusion, fantastic. This is all we've been wanting. However, if it gets played in every second deck and becomes an engine, it's not really ideal for us. Now, obviously, people just starting playing Dark Magician because it's that good, fantastic. I want that. I want people to play Dark Magician. I don't want them to play Dark Magician as an engine the same way Illusion of Chaos and Souls are played as a draw engine or a extending engine in other decks. That has the potential for us to get our cards hit for no reason, like when Spiral became a top tier deck when Magician Souls released. We were lucky enough that Konami didn't hit Magician Souls and instead they just hit Spiral Master Plan. Thank you, Konami, for that hit. I hope they do this in future where if a Dark Magician card gets out of control because of another deck, they just hit that other deck. They normally don't do this. They normally don't address the problems. You'll notice the way they ban Tier Elements on Master Duel and in the TCG and OCG, they're very, very delicate with their bans. They'll put stuff to 2. They'll put things like Terraforming to ban and Instant Fusion to ban and Foolish Burial Goods to 1 or ban instead of addressing the problem cards like the Tier Field spell that they're actually trying to hit the consistency of. And you'll see this with Sword Soul as well. where Sword Soul was using Pot of Desires, so they hit Pot of Desires down to 1, and then realized it was silly and brought it back to 2. Now, Grand Marju players obviously were crying in the club, me being one of them, and it's just unfair that Konami hits staples and generic cards like that just because a deck is performing well with them. Instead, they should really be addressing those problems, but that's a whole nother video in itself. Anyway, I'd like to cast some speculation over what potential cards we may get if we do get Dark Magician support. So let's go into that. Now, I know we've got way too many fusions, and we just need a better fusion spell more than anything, but man, I would absolutely love Dark Magician fused with Slifer, or Dark Magician fused with Blue Eyes White Dragon, which is a fusion I'm very much waiting to happen. Now, of course, we can't have all these amazing fusions in the Dark Magician deck without a better fusion spell. So looking into fusion spells, yeah, we kind of need something that's better than Secrets. I understand people say Secrets is our fusion spell, but it's really not. We're talking about a real fusion spell like Red Eyes Fusion or Branded Fusion or Shadow Fusion, something that sends the material from the deck to the grave. This will also benefit Soul Servant by sending bricks to the grave and getting us extra draws. This will also make Rod and Circle more relevant cards, as they'll be able to search our Crazy Crack fusion spell that turns the entire deck on, and Dark Magician is really lacking a one-card starter that just gets the whole deck online. So something like Dark Magical Fusion Ritual, or just Dark Magical Fusion, or anything similar to that would be ideal. And that is the number one thing I'm hoping for. Aside from that, Link monsters are something Dark Magician could benefit from, because Rod and Souls right now don't really link into anything relevant because Anaconda's gone. Now, obviously, a Link 1 is good for Rod, because getting Rod in the grave and then being able to recycle it is so important. That's why we've been playing Artemis. But an ideal DM Link 1 would be nice. But you know what? We could do with a Link 2. We could do with a Link 3. It really doesn't bother me. If they wanted to be cheeky, they could call the Link a Palladium, and that would give us extra draws off Soul Servant. That would be absolutely incredible. Or they could make the Link identify as, say, DMG or Mahad or Mana. Anything like that could be absolutely cracked. I know we've already had a bunch of XYZ support, but we could get a new batch of XYZ support, since the EBON cards kind of feel like they would fit this illusion description. The structure deck is called Illusion of the Dark Magicians, and EBON Illusion Magician is literally the main EBON card. I think it could be quite good to have more XYZ support, even though we don't necessarily make the XYZs turn 1. Perhaps a Dingarusu's situation where Galatea, the Link 2 of Orcus, could go straight into Ding by just a Link 2 overlays into an XZ. Maybe we'll get a similar treatment where our Link 2 lets us go into any Dark Magician or EBON XZ for free. Something like that could be really, really nice. And the last thing I'd like to touch on is we don't have a Dark Magician counter trap yet, which is kind of weird, so I'd really like to see that. But that's all I've got today for my Dark Magician speculation. I hope you guys are really hyped for these structure decks, and I hope we aren't let down by Konami, though there is the chance that these are just reprint sets. So I'll be really keen to see some new Dark Magician plays picking up these structure decks, because they'll provide a cheaper way to obtain the Dark Magician core, which we all know and love. We love playing Dark Magician. A lot of people just can't afford it, because unfortunately the deck's very expensive for how mediocre it is in the competitive environment. Though this could create a really nice situation where everyone can play the deck, it's cheap, and look, even if the deck isn't amazing, it's at least obtainable by everybody, and that's really awesome. Anyway, that's all from me, guys. I hope to see you soon. If you love Dark Magician content, make sure you hit that subscribe, like, and comment down below your favorite Dark Magician card, because I've got endless Dark Magician content coming on this channel, as well as just generic Yu-Gi-Oh content as well. I'll see you guys very soon. Have a good day. Peace. Hey you, yeah you, you've been wondering where I get my singles from. Well, it brings me great joy to say I get my singles from Grimdark Gaming. Whether you play Yu-Gi-Oh, Digimon, Dragon Ball, Flesh and Blood, Magic the Gathering, MetaZoo, or whatever it is you're after, make sure with your purchase to use code LOZA2 and apply that to get 5% off your order. And of course, that 5% goes to helping me out to make this channel so awesome for you. So make sure you check out Grimdark Gaming down in the description of this video and use the promo code LOZA2.